So if there's one thing you should know about me, it's that I'm late to pretty much every party ever. Metaphorically speaking, that is, because if you've seen my last video, you'll know that I'd rather be dangled over lava with pins in my face than go to an actual party. This is the life. But seriously, sometimes it's like the entire world passes me by and I don't even notice. Major news story? Haven't read it. Huge blockbuster film? Haven't seen it. New game that everyone's obsessed with? Haven't played it. Best friend's having a baby? Not interested. At this point, I honestly think a volcano could explode in my back garden and I probably wouldn't notice for like a week. Hey, did you guys know the Queen died? Point is, to quote my high school PE teacher, apparently, I tend to lag behind the group. So over the past few months, I've made an effort to do more things I've never done before, like working out and assembling flat pack furniture. Which, as it turned out, was a terrible idea, but that's not the point. Anyway, in my effort to try more new things, I realised I've never played an Animal Crossing game before. Like, ever. You remember Animal Crossing? The game everyone was playing 2 years ago during lockdown. Yeah, well, I finally got around to playing that for the first time. Well, second time, actually. I have briefly played New Horizons before, but by play, I mean I loaded up a save file, got frustrated that I only had a tent, smacked some trees, caught some bugs, and then completely forgot about it. And the other day I saw that dusty-looking game on my shelf and realised that today was the day that all changes. This was it. Now is the time to once again climb that mountain. And if not now, when? If not me, who? I have a dream because you're worth it. Yes, we can. Are you sure you want to reset your island? Yes. Everything you built here will disappear. All your villagers, your friends, their families and homes. Yes. Wow. All these lives meaninglessly ended just because you want. I just want to leave. But are you sure? The game starts in an airport, and these two raccoon-looking dudes are like, "What's your name? When's your birthday? Also, hypothetically, what would you take with you if you were about to be stranded on a desert island for all eternity?" Just asking. I mean, that seems a little intense, but I guess I'd take it. Pick your island! And I get to choose from 3 pretty much identical islands, so I choose one that has its own mini island on it, because I can immediately picture my house there, surrounded by its own personal moat with one way in and one way out, because as it turns out, even in video games I'm antisocial. Leave me alone. I arrive on the island and meet this other raccoon, Tom Nook, who gives me a tent, which I place next to the beach for a beautiful ocean view. Then I meet my villagers Hazel and Boots, who are still setting up their own tents because they're slowpokes. And then we head back to the plaza for Tom Nook's final welcome speech. He asks us to name the island, and since I just finished rewatching Avengers Endgame, I suggest the name New Asgard, which everyone seems to like. Then Tom Nook appoints me as the island representative, and I'm like, cool. That night I go to bed and I have this really weird dream about some dog serenading me to sleep. I mean, I'm not really sure what was going on there, but I'm just going to put it down to being tired from a long and stressful moving day. The next day I wake up and Tom Nook is practically dragging me out of my tent, and I'm like, what? And he gives me this thing called a Nook phone, which has all kinds of apps on it, like a camera and a map and an encyclopedia. And here's your itemized bill. You owe me 48,900 bells. I have 3 sticks and an apple. Also, what is a bell? He then explains to me how the island's currency system works, and after realizing that I have like no money, he tells me I can pay off my loan using these things called Nook miles, which you earn by basically just doing things on your island. He tells me I owe him 5,000 Nook miles and then puts me to work. I start by weeding the entire island, talk to Hazel and Boots, collect some shells that have washed up on the beach and sell them for a profit. I take some photos, I pick the fruit, I sell the fruit, shake some trees, acquire sticks, make a fishing rod, fish, more sticks, flimsy net, improvise, adapt, overcome, bugs! And eventually I pay off my first loan and manage to upgrade my tent to a small house by the end of the day. And it was at this point that I started to understand how everyone got so addicted to this game 2 years ago. Now I got to this point in my last playthrough, so I had a plan. I knew that very soon we were going to need a load of wood to build a new shop, so the first thing I did on day 2 was make an axe and began my tree massacre. But I quickly ran out of trees. Aww. But I didn't let that slow me down because I saw some on the other side of the river. So I did what any normal person would do in that situation, and I learned to pole vault. I jumped across the river, separating me and the forest so I could continue my rampage, and then immediately realized that items break in this game and found myself stranded on the wrong side of the river and someone had to come rescue me. I also learned how you're supposed to mine rocks. See, up to now, I've been roiding myself up on apples and smacking the living crap out of the rocks until they exploded. But then my brother was like, you know that's not what you're meant to do, right? You're meant to dig 2 little holes either side of the rock and then smack it without eating, so that you get loads of little rocks instead of crushing it out of existence. Oh. Yeah, that makes sense, but I've still got 1 apple left to use. Hiya! I then help an owl open his museum by giving him some bugs that I caught and fossils I dug up, and even found a spot for the new shop, and day 2 was concluded by fishing and paying off my second loan and upgrading my house again. I'm so good at this. Day 3, I made a bridge and started on some more lumberjacking to get some wood to furnish my new house with. But then Tom Nook appears and is like, Sam, people seem to really like living on this island. Why don't you find room for 3 more houses for me to sell? Also, here's a list of stuff that you're going to need to fill them with before anybody moves in, because I've decided that as island representative, this is your responsibility now. Wait, why does that mean I have to... Oh, he's gone. No, I didn't sign up for neighbours when I moved to my secluded island, and I certainly didn't sign up to be their interior designer, so I shove all 3 houses in the far corner of my island on the other side of a river and think to myself, yep, should be able to ignore them from here. I begrudgingly kit out Tom Nook's 3 houses, and now I have villagers Rhino, Big Bird, and Satan with lashes staying on my island. We have a little ceremony for the new museum, and then I go to visit John Lennon's island and realise it was just a place to do a photo shoot, and then I never spoke to him for the rest of the game. The next few days involve learning to dive and grabbing all kinds of crap from the bottom of the ocean so that I could pay off my next loan. And whilst I was diving, I'd occasionally find scallops, and this otter-looking fella would show up and be like, "Wanna give me your scallops?" And I'd be like, "Not really." Understandable, have a nice day. But then I googled it when I got back to shore, and apparently he gives you stuff in return, so the next time he showed up and was like, "Got any scallops?" I was like, "Sure, why not?" And then he gave me nothing and floated away. What the fuck? It's fine, next time I found one he showed up and gave me a mermaid dress, so you know, you win some, you lose some. At this point, a whole week had passed on my island, and the resident services place where Tom Nook normally lives was closed because apparently he's building something there. I don't know what, and I don't really care because I went to go and visit my new neighbours, and now I have house envy. Because their houses look like this, and mine looks like this. So I'm back out diving and lumberjacking and planting in an attempt to make my house look at least a little bit less hideous. The next day I wake up and there's a massive town hall in the middle of the plaza, and Tom Nook's like, "You like it? You like it? What do you think? Do you like it?" And he introduces me and the other villagers to this girl, Isabel, who's going to be doing the island announcements from now on, because apparently Tom Nook's too busy to do that now. Although I'm not gonna lie, I haven't seen him for a while, so I'm not totally convinced he's as busy as he says he is, but anyway. The next thing I know, Boots is dragging me out of my house, and I'm like, "You people really don't know how to knock, do you?" He drags me all the way to his house, which at first is all dark inside apart from a few candles, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm about to be sacrificed to Tom Nook. But it turns out it was just a birthday party. Whew. Really thought that was it for a second there. And I was gonna capture the footage, but I'm gonna be honest and say that I got a little bit excited turning 23 with my pals Rhino, Boots, Hazel, Big Bird, and Satan, but I did manage to get some screenshots. There was a cake and a piñata, which I smacked the crap out of, and it had loads of little cakes in it. And then later on, Rhino was like, "Hey Sam, do you have any of that cake left?" And it was at that moment I realised I was meant to share those with my villagers, but had actually just eaten them all myself. So, look, a thing! I head to the new town hall, and Tom Nook is like, "Oh, Sam, glad you're here. So there's this KK Slider guy who I want to come perform at our island. Very famous, big deal kind of thing. But problem is, there's only like 4 of you living here, and your island's kind of ugly. And my guy does not perform in ugly places, so fix it." And at this point, I'm like, "You know what, Mr. Nook, this kind of sounds like a you problem. How about you do something for yourself once in a while instead of getting me to go find a place for the new campsite and quit being ugly?" I do my best to place this new campsite as far away from my house as I possibly can, but that involves making a new bridge. So I reluctantly speak to Tom Nook again, and he's like, "Sure, no problem, just select what type of bridge you want. Don't mind if I did." 98,000 bells! For the cheapest one! I swear this guy is just ripping me off. So I spend the rest of the day fishing and selling all the crap I found at the bottom of the sea to this mole who's apparently in charge of construction here. We build a new ramp and then we finish off the day with a ceremony for the new resident services building. I'm watching you. The next day, this dude shows up at the campsite and I'm like, woohoo, my first visitor! So I go and say hi and I immediately hate him. "Hello, my name is Olaf. So you live here, do you? Well, I'm sure it's quite nice, but I'm sure it will be even better once I'm living here. Are you off to catch some bugs? Because I know a thing or two about catching bugs, yeah? And you're going to need some much better shoes." Okay, look, I know I need to bulk out my island for the sake of Tom Nook and his little concert, but let me tell you, at the first available opportunity, I'm gonna be yeeting this narcissistic weirdo off my island, but for now, I'm just gonna have to ignore him. And dig holes in front of his house so he can't leave. Haha, take that, Olaf. The next day, Tom Nook tells me to speak to Isabel about these things called island evaluations. We're apparently in the final stages of attracting KK Slider to our island now, but he doesn't just perform anywhere. Oh, no. He only performs at 3-star islands or higher, and we're currently at 1 star. I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and guess that this is also my problem. Yeah, that's what I thought. More flowers, another bridge, weeding, another house, outside furniture, fences, even more flowers! You know, I think now would be a really good time to stop and appreciate just how far my island has come. There's plenty of fruit in the trees, outdoor seating for my villagers to sit and enjoy the sun, plenty of flowers around the place, and why is there a pirate on my beach? So this weird seagull pirate thing washes up, and at first I'm like, is it dead? But after some more Googling, I managed to wake him up, and he says his name's Gulliver, and he's like, matey, I've lost me communicator. So here's the thing, I wasn't actually listening to what he said, so I end up digging up like 90% of the beach trying to find it for him, and after like 10 minutes of digging up clams, I'm like, this doesn't seem right. So I googled it again, and apparently if Gulliver came dressed as a pirate, which he did, it means his communicator is in the sea. So I dive about, find his phone, he gives me some furniture to say thank you, and disappears. Doesn't that make so much sense? Later on, I checked my island rating, and we're now at 2 stars. I honestly don't know what more you people want from me, except maybe a kidney. So I spend the rest of the day buying and planting flowers until my island looks like the stuff of nightmares for anyone with hay fever. The next day I head over to Isabel, who tells me that at last we have a 3-star rating, and I'm like, finally! You know, it might have taken you like 3 weeks, but we got there eventually. And that pricks Tom Nook's ears, and he's like, 3 stars? Heck, I'd better call KK Slider. He asks the guy to perform, and he's like, yeah, why not? And this guy must have like Mario Galaxy warp-starred to us, because literally 30 seconds later, we all gather outside the resident services building, and the weird dog that was in my dream at the start of the game starts to sing, the credits roll, the end. Is that it? All that work, all those hours of weeding, flowering, diving, and selling for that? You still owe me 250,000 bells. Fuck off! Hi, guys. So it's been a while. I hope you liked the video, because if you didn't, I've just wasted 6 months of my life. I know I've been going on about this video for ages, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this took me like thousands of hours to make, but I really wanted to push myself to make something that was like the best thing I was capable of making, and that is what this video is. So I hope you like it. Thank you for watching. I promise not to disappear for another 6 months. Bye.